Hello friends and welcome. My name is Popeye and today we're playing some more Steins Gate O. I'm sure that's what it is and not a 0. Hello Samuses. Before we get into this game, just some trigger warnings. This game has some pretty mature themes, including death, murder, gore, torture, rape, any of those things against a minor. If any of those things is not for you, please find somewhere you would rather be. So yeah, we want you to feel welcomed. Actually, let me move my camera down just a hair. There we go. So last time, what did we do? We spent a bunch of it as Mayuri's friends, just talking about things. You can actually hear me now. Then hello once again. Mayuri was trying to hook up Daru with his future wife. And they're planning this Christmas party, and then one of them came here with Mayuri to try and cook a quiche, I believe it was. And what else? Suzuha was here talking with Daru. She hid from her future mom because it's weird and she wants to affect the future as little as possible. We saw I don't know what to call it, a flashback for Suzuha, a flash forward for this world from before Suzuha went back in time. That involves Daru, Mayuri. Mayuri has adopted a child who looks suspiciously like Christina, but has a different name. And the two of them go back in time to whatever the year was where Suzuha is supposed to get the time machine for us. I believe that's 1975, I want to say. I had a quiche today for lunch. I wish I could say I made it. I did not, but it was delicious nonetheless. Yeah, and then we switch back to Okabe, who doesn't want to come because he doesn't want to meet Suzuha because he's still traumatized from killing Christina with her in the past. However, the Christina in his phone tells him to come here, so he's like, well, I guess I should go. And then he meets Mayuri. He's like, you should come. And then he's like, well, crap, I can't turn down Mayuri. So now we're all chilling in the lab, and Suzuha gave it another good old college try to try and convince us to go back in time and not kill Christina, and we're like, nope, still not feeling it, sorry. I think that about covers it. So yeah, we're gonna continue. The information I just heard was that shocking. What was the information? Alright, the information was about a worldwide pandemic virus. I'm not joking. That, basically means that your memories are confused, or you forget things. Probably as a result of us changing the world lines so many times and people having these, like, memory overwrites. We've seen it in other people, like, in the good ending of the original Steins Gate, where Christina remembers us, even though she was never part of that world line. Or she had never met us in that world line, rather. So, and we had Ferris remembering the maid cafe, even in the world line where it never existed. So clearly there's some kind of memory stuff happening, even when we change world lines, just that reading Steiner allows us to have, I guess, like an eidetic memory, or a regular memory, I guess, in this case. Steins Gate predicted 2020. I really hope not, because if that's the case, in like 15 years we have World War III. I don't want to have World War III. But yeah, the news is just reporting that basically a lot of people in America are having this problem, and they're just saying, like, there's a chance it might come to Japan, but there's ways of medicating the symptoms and stuff like that. That's the gist of what I remember from it. Actually, why am I even guessing? We have this wonderful piece of technology called a backlog. Oh, that only shows what happened in this game, so that's kind of useless. Okay, moving on. A new kind of encephalitis? I knew the symptoms she was describing. Losing the ability to discriminate between dreams and reality. Because if you remember, a lot of times people would have dreams that were about the previous world line, such as Mayuri dying. Mayuri had many dreams of herself dying over and over again. Losing your sense of the passage of time. You're starting to think this game is unrealistic. You find it hard to believe people could remember what never happened to them. Yeah! I mean, I don't think it's supposed to be super realistic. Yeah. Your memories no longer match those of the people around you. That happened to us all the time. That was exactly the same as reading Steiner. What if our memories exist outside of the brain? When we're switching back to Suzuha and we're going back to... Oh, we're now in the past. We're in 1975. So this is right after her time machine with her and Kagari. That's the child who looks a lot like Christina. So this is where they end up. The interior of the time machine smelled like metal and was covered in instruments of different sizes. The girl inside was sobbing. It had been almost an hour since Suzuha had left to go look around. She'd assumed that Kagari would have stopped crying by then. She'd had no such luck. You sound like an amazing parent. Oh yes, you're an even better parent now. Kagari Shina looked up at Suzuha, her face wet with tears. Your mom's dead now. Oh, you're gonna be a great parent someday. Just delete the whole Minecraft world. Suzuha walked over to Kagari and knelt down, so they'd be at eye level. She had no intention of spoiling her. There's a difference between spoiling someone, acknowledging their emotions, but giving them the tools to help get over their own problems, and being a complete dickwad. Apparently about a year ago, that's a thing that happened in Suzuha. Yeah, I can see that being controversial. Her goal was to save billions of lives, and this was her first mission. Aha! You have your own Norse mythology references. Valkyrie, demi-goddesses from Norse mythology. There are many Valkyries. At least several dozen are given names. They chose who will die on the battlefield and who will be victorious, and they take the souls of those who fought bravely to Valhalla to prepare for the coming Ragnarok. Skuld, one of the three Norns, and the goddess of the future is a Valkyrie. Fair enough. Samus is with the Norse mythology. Kagari was a brave girl. She finally realized that now wasn't the time for tears. She tried to stop crying. It wasn't working well, but it was a lot better for her emotions than sobbing. She was a smart girl. Suzuha knew that. He just really liked Thor Ragnarok. The machine had landed on the roof of the radio building, which wasn't a spot that people visited often. The chances of anyone finding it were slim. But in this era, they had no one to help them conceal it. That meant they couldn't stay long. She needed to finish her mission quickly and move to the next time period.
何か失敗したらまたタイムマシンで時間を戻ればいいんじゃないの？燃料の問題があるんだ。ジャンプできる回数は無限じゃない。肝心の場面で動作しなかったら話にならない。そうなんだ。立てるか？
Suzuha stepped out of the machine and beckoned to Kagari. Kagari looked surprised. Her eyes were narrowed at the bright sunlight. This is why the time loop machine was more useful, it had infinite retries? The sky above Tokyo in this time period was too dirty to be called blue. Smoke and dust clouds filled with who knew what, rising from the rows of smokestacks, all combined with black exhaust from the cars that scurried along the ground to create a smog so thick you could literally see it. The sky above the city was covered by a veil of death. But still, it was the first clear sky that Kagari had ever seen. She'd only ever known from books and videos that the sky could be this bright. The nuclear weapons used during the Third World War had changed the weather over Tokyo. Their sky was constantly covered with dull gray clouds. The sun's light was always weak when it shone through them, and it was never this bright.
私が子供の頃はまだこんな感じの空だった。少しだけど覚えてるよ。
Suzuha looked up at the sky too.
空気が美味しい。
In 2036, you needed a filter and a mask to go outside for any length of time. Compared to that, 1975 was a lot cleaner.
わかるだろ、かがり。父さんたちがどうして世界線の改変に全てをかけていたのか。世界線がどうとか、歴史がどうとか、そんな理屈は後でいい。今はただ、この空の色を守りたいと思えば。
Gari slipped her hand into her pocket and took out the faded green Upa keychain. She stared at it with a sad look on her face. She was probably thinking about Mayuri, her mother. Even predicted masks. She was probably trying to understand what it meant that her mother had put her inside the time machine. Suzuha had decided that Kagari was alright now and closed the hatch on the time machine from the outside. The lock flipped on automatically. The only person who could open it now was Suzuha. His biometrics had been loaded into the system ahead of time. Even if someone did find the time machine, it would be a while before they found out what it was.
Kagari, これを見ろ。
Suzuha handed her a printout of a photo.
これ何？
A printout of a photo. I would just call that a photo. Even if it's a copy of it.
IBN 5100っていうレトロ PC.
Okay, we gotta explain what the heck this IBM 5100 is. IBM's first portable computer, which went on sale in 1975. Design included an integrated monitor and keyboard. While it was described as portable, it weighed almost 25 kilograms. In the 2000s, everyone was ripped and could carry 25 kilograms easily. John Titor revealed that there was a special computer language that could only be used on devices of this type, which was not described in the manual. IBM's developers would later admit that he was correct.
私たちの時代に存在していたものは、
Yes.
どれも満足に動かない。けど、この時代なら感動品が入手できる。これを手分けして探すのが、私とお前の最初のミッションだ。
Split up with the child. You're okay with this child? She handed Kagari a small transceiver.
通信できる距離はかなり短いらしいから気休め程度だと思え。
So it's a walkie-talkie.
オーキードーキー。90分ごとにこのビルの前に集合。状況を確認。それを繰り返す。
I don't have, like... Oh, I quick saved. I was trying to see if I could open my cell phone and just see, like, a walkie-talkie, but apparently not.
オーキードーキー。
The kid doesn't have a watch. Do they have a cell phone that will tell them the time?
いい返事だ。
Suzuha nodded and patted Kagari on the head.
よし、ミッション開始。
I mean, yes, they can't go very far from the building. However, they were told that the IBM 5100 wasn't Akihabara, so they aren't expected to go too far. But also, apparently in 90 minutes, it went from day to the blackest night. Hello, Deadbeard. Wait, but also... I don't like this also. Dang it, Deadbeard, stop subscribing. Oh gosh, has it been 1 year? Are we getting the 1 years in? Okay, it's changed because we didn't wait 90 minutes. We waited 35 years. We do not have chat quotes here, Samuses. Suzuha was on top of the radio building in 2010, looking down. You had to draw attention to it. Gosh dang it, if I'd waited, you would have done the math for me. That's how long ago it had been in real time since she'd spoken to Kagari here. From her perspective, it had only been a few months. Wait, did you never see the child again? The view from up here had changed a lot since then. In the next 26 years, it would change even more. Okay, fair enough. See you soon, Deadbeard. She'd seen for herself how this building changed over a span of 61 years. The thought didn't make her feel sentimental. Instead, she felt the loneliness and fear that comes from having a past not shared with anyone else, because it was actually the future. Yes, you were accidentally perfect with 12. Using the time machine to change the world lines means breaking the rules of the universe. Rintaro Okabe's words flashed through her mind. Still, lately, she'd been thinking more about Kagari. She'd been searching the city at regular intervals. She was looking for Kagari Shina. She didn't even know if she was in Tokyo. She had no clues. She didn't even know what Kagari looked like now. So maybe it was a waste of time. Jeez, you did leave the child in the past! Even so, she had to find Kagari herself. But she hadn't had any better luck today. She turned around and looked toward the time machine. She would come here every day. Her primary reason for coming here was to see if her father, Itaru Hashida, had been here. Anytime she let her guard down, he would come to try and examine it. She told him it would cause a time paradox, but he didn't listen. She needed to keep constant watch. To be honest, she had a lot of things she had to do. And then she heard the metal door to the roof open. Was it her dad? She squinted into the darkness, but the person she saw coming was much smaller than Itaru, and had cat ears coming out of their head. Ferris Nyanyan had a spring in her step as she approached Suzuha.
ルミ姉さんって誰のことかにゃ？フェイリスはフェイリスにゃ。ルミ姉さんはルミ姉さんだよ。
Ferris's real name was Rumiho Akiha. She was Daru's friend and had helped them in many different ways in 2036. So Suzuha had known her ever since she was very young, and had always called her Big Sis Rumi. For whatever reason in this era, she always wanted to be called Ferris, though. When Suzuha asked why, she simply responded, "Ferris is Ferris, nya," an answer which meant nothing to Suzuha. You almost got it right, Samus.
ラボに誰もいなかったからこっちかなと思ったら正解だったにゃ。はい、差し入れ。余り物で悪いんやけど。
I feel like carrying stuff in those mitten hands would be very hard. Vera showed her a cake box with the logo from the maid cafe where she worked. May Queen Nian, Tiny Rays 2.
父さんがラボに不在でよかったよ。
If he ate something like that at this hour, he'd get even fatter.
ダルニャンじゃなくてスズニャンへの差し入れにゃ。
The real reason Suzuha came back in time was to fat shame her dad so he'd be thin in the future.
私に？なんで？にゃふふ、好きなくせに。
Ferris grinned and nudged Suzuha on the side with her elbow.
私は別に。アップルタルトにモンブラン、あとイチゴのショートケーキもあるにゃ。ほら、おいしそうだにゃ。
Is Ferris the inventor of the uwu face? Did the uwu face exist before 2010? Ferris opened the box and showed her what was inside. Suzuha could smell the sweet cream and fruit.
さあ、今すぐおいしく食べるといいにゃ。心置きなく食べるといいにゃ。ほら、あんして。その可愛いお口に食べさせてあげるにゃん。
Meowth! We're feeding it into Pokemon?
冷蔵庫にしまって明日食べる。スズニャンはストイックにゃ。
Ferris laughed and handed over the box.
賞味期限は明日だから明日中に食べなきゃダメに
It's
ゃ
a
ぞ。
pretty short shelf life.
ありがとう。どういたしまして。
Mere welcome. No, okay, you've gone too far. Ferris gave her a mischievous wink and looked up at the time machine beside them.
ダルニャンのタイムマシン研究の方はどうかにゃ。頑張ってはいるみたい。ルミ姉さん、このマシンまだここに置いておいても。
Suzuha looked around the roof as she asked. It was solely thanks to Ferris that no one had really noticed the massive object on the roof. She was the heir to a rich family that had a lot of influence in this area and contributed a lot to the development of Akihabara. She was helping to hide the time machine.
このフロアというか屋上はフェイリスが借り上げちゃったから平気にゃ。オーナーさんには体感ゲームの研究をしてるって言ってあるにゃ。ちょっと苦しいわけにゃけど。助かるよ。
I'd be more worried about, all the people in that office building just off, like right below my head. Like, none of them have just, looked out the window and are like, "Ah, what's that giant machine over there? That wasn't there last week."
気にしないでいいにゃ。この世界のエレメンタルを売薬兵たちの魔の手から救うためなら、フェイリスはいつでも協力するにゃ。
Okay, what nonsense do we have here? The four elementals. The four spirits who control the elements of earth, water, fire, and air. Their existence was first proposed by the Swiss alchemist Heraclitus in his book, The Book of Fairies. He described them as beings not dead, like ghosts, but not alive, like humans, and as being spiritual creatures of an extremely nebulous nature. Heraclitus struggled to explain exactly what they were. In the end, he decided to classify them as things. Very scientific. He divided them as follows. The element of earth is controlled by the pygmies of the mountain, or the gnomes. The element of water is controlled by the nymphs of the water, or the undine. The element of fire is controlled by the salamanders of the fire, or the Vulcans. The element of air is controlled by the sylphs of the wind, or the Sylvestris. Heraclius' theory had a huge effect on alchemists and authors, both in his own and later generations, who filled in the gaps in his work. In the fantasy genre, in particular, elements have become a mainstay. Until someone learned all 4 elements. Alright, and there's one more we gotta... Aww. I saw it. What the heck is this thing? Yaki. Winged interstellar creatures that appeared in the Cthulhu mythos. They were created by August Derleth, the co-creator of the Cthulhu mythos, along with H.P. Lovecraft, and appeared in such stories as The House on Kerwin Street. They are described as being chimera-like creatures around 3 meters tall. That's... what, about 10 feet for the Americans? With the wings of a pterosaur, the legs of an eagle, and a tail like a bee's. I think they mean a stinger. Despite their terrifying appearance, they understand human speech, and if they feel it's in their best interest, they can even work together with humans. In space, they usually travel around 1/10 of light speed, but an organ called the Hune in their tail allows them to fly faster than the speed of light. Byakhee are supposedly servants of Pastor, the god of shepherds, a creation of Ambroise Bierce, author of the famous Devil's Dictionary. Cool. So, the 4 different elements that make up the world are being attacked by interstellar bees that can travel faster than the speed of light. Got it. I guess he has a dictionary, but he doesn't have a thesaurus. What language is that? In the end, she could never get an answer. To Suzuha, Ferris was always a great mystery. Life is mysteriously absent, like to think it has no meaning. Meanwhile, Ferris looks like Cat Ice Climber. Fancy eating you here? But maybe I do need chat quotes. Before she finished her sentence, she felt someone looking at her. She glanced around. She listened carefully. There was literally no game audio. She definitely heard a very faint sound from the direction of the metal door that led to the stairs. It was small enough that Suzuha was only able to notice it because of her training. Remember your training! Most of the discussion was worthless, but they talked about the time machine a little. If someone heard that... Suzuha yanked her gun out of her jacket, and in an instant, ran towards the stairs as fast as she could. She heard someone running down the stairs as soon as she did. The sound, heavy military boots in a wide stride, got farther and farther away. She opened the door and jumped onto the landing. Then she raced down the stairs, skipping 3 steps with every stride. Deadbeard, thank you for the host! But still, it wasn't fast enough. Suzuha was born fast, and she'd been trained to be faster, but it wasn't enough. When she finally made it to the second floor, she could hear the loud revving of a motorcycle. I feel like I'm Link, and like I just pulled the Master Sword out in Ocarina of Time, and I'm in the Temple of Time, and Ganon's like standing right in front of me. That's what this music is. She panicked and slipped on an object that had been left halfway up the stairs, then rolled her way to the bottom. The Temple of Rhyme? I mean, it's still the Temple of Time, it's just the Temple of Time machine. Good welcomes. Beardy, do you need to get some sleep? She managed to get into the right position and protect her head, so it was her hips that struck the ground. Samuses think that Deadbeard should be going to bed now. She forced herself to stand up and run outside. She could see the taillights of a large motorcycle speeding away. The driver was wearing a black helmet and riding suit, already a good distance away, so she couldn't tell if they were a man or woman. So you type and go, it looks good to see you on your phone and go, oh, oh no. They revved their engine loudly as if to mock her, and then spun a corner and disappeared onto Center Street. A little later, Ferris caught up. I'm going to assume that clock was a typo and that you have crudely drawn something else. She put the gun in her hands back into her jacket holster and brushed away hair that sweat had stuck to her brow.
わからない。けど一般人じゃない。訓練されてると思う。訓練？階段に何か落ちてなかった？バッグが転がってたにゃ。ちょうど死角になる位置だった。多分わざと落としたんだよ。しかも私がそこを通るタイミングでエンジンを空ぶかしした。見事に引っかかったよ。トラップってことかにゃ。ああいうことがとっさにできるっていうのは特殊な訓練を受けてるからだ。じゃなきゃ無理。
Suzuha glared in the direction the bike disappeared and started to think. Who was it? CERN? Was there an unofficial CERN group? The Rounders that were searching for IBN 5100s in Akihabara? Rintaro Okabe had told her that, but he'd only encountered them in another world line.
誰かはわからないけど、私たちの他にタイムマシンのことを知ってる奴がいるのは間違いない。
Roosters make excellent weapons? Does that mean that breeding chickens in Australia is like super dangerous? Was it that they knew about it, but weren't going to do anything more? Hello, Avier, how's it going? Or did they intend to steal the time machine from her? And she didn't know, she had to assume the worst, or she wouldn't be prepared to deal with it. She looked up to the sky and sighed, becoming a bad habit.
ねえ、ルミ姉さん。このことは、オカリンおじさんには内密にしておいて。なんで？今のオカリンおじさんが知ったらタイムマシンを破壊しろって言いかねない。危険だからってでしょ。
You cheated with tab complete. That's how I do it, but then that's also how I give shoutouts to Panic instead of Prince.
そうにゃけど私は絶対にマシンを守るよ。 シュタインズゲートの入り口へオカリンおじさんを連れて行かなきゃいけないんだから。それが未来の父さんとの、私をここに送り出してくれた人たちみんなとの約束だからさ。
Stream seems okay. Yeah, there was a tiny blip I see of 15 or so seconds. Yeah, I'm just gonna give that a quick monitor. It looks like it's fine. Yeah. Looks like it's alright. How long was that out for? Yeah, it looks like it was out for 12-ish seconds. Yes, welcome back, Sam says there was a blip for about 12 seconds, it looks like. But it looks fine now on my end. So we're gonna continue.
Suzuha. わかったにゃ。その代わり、ダルニャにだけはちゃんと話しておくこと。オーキードーキー。
It came back, but the entire screen went black. I mean, what did we do? This is why we have a backlog. Basically, someone knows about the time machine. Suzuha tells Ferris to keep her mouth shut because she doesn't want anyone else to destroy it because it's too dangerous if it falls in enemy hands. Suzuha's gonna protect it no matter what, keep her promise. There we go. Okie dokie seems to be the word this stream. The last part was almost a whisper as her words melted into Akihabara's sky. Oh, now we're Maho. We're just everyone today. Hydrate. Here is your hydrate. So, Deadbeard. For mine, I think it's actually my router. And so, small tangent. So, my computer, when I got it, did not have a wireless card. It now has a wireless card. It just had the Ethernet connection. So, I would run an Ethernet cable from my tower to a Wi-Fi extender, which is plugged into the wall about 3 feet over to my left here. And that would be how I would get my internet. And I would notice that it would just stop getting internet sometimes. And basically, I spent some time with with their customer support being like, hey, I'm having this issue where it drops fully every now and then. And they had me do the usual things, you know, try different Ethernet cable, try it with a different machine, so I brought a laptop and connected it. Had the same issues. So I was convinced it was a fault of the extender for the longest time. Then I decided, well, I should buy a wireless adapter anyway. So I got one, and it's now like my backup connection. And what I noticed with that was when the Ethernet would cut out, the Wi-Fi signal would drop from 5 bars to 2. So I'm convinced that there's something that happens with the router that just drops the internet from that 5 bars to 2, and that's what causes my blips. Whether that's my router or if that's something with my ISP, I'm going to blame the router until proven otherwise. What is it called? I've tried rebooting it. I've tried making sure it's up to date, and it's up to date. I haven't done any custom firmware. I have to Google what my router is. It's called the Bell Home Hub 3000. Whereas Bell is my ISP. Yeah, so it's... It is what I believe is still the most modern router for my ISP. I think it's just not great, and ISPs in Canada are also not great. Canada has some of the highest prices for internet, both regular internet and cellular phone internet in the world. It's ridiculous. And Canada is also a place where, you know, when you have a phone plan and it's like you get 500 minutes or 500 texts or whatever it is, in a lot of countries, that only counts outgoing. In Canada, that counts incoming. So if you receive a text message, that counts against your total. And that confuses a lot of people when you come here. So if you're having a conversation with a person and, you know, you're sending a message back every now and then, basically you're getting charged double for messages. And anytime you pick up the phone, you're getting charged on minutes, even if you didn't make the call. So yeah. And so I have a pretty basic phone plan. My phone plan costs me $45, that's tax included, per month. That gets me unlimited Canada-wide texting, 100 minutes, and then unlimited evenings and weekends, and 100 megs of data a month. So that's about the level that Canada's at. Yeah. Yes, 100 megabyte per month of data. So basically, I use data for basically two reasons. I'm out somewhere I don't know and I'm lost and I need to open Google Maps. I'm out somewhere and I really need to check messages because I'm like waiting for someone and they're late, or I'm running late and I need to message that person and we don't often talk through text. That's basically what I use my data for. Exactly. Emergencies, directions, troubleshooting. Yep. And yes, so I do the same thing. I leave my data off and I just use Wi-Fi basically all the time. So yeah. And then, like looking up internet in Canada, so Canada's only just recently gone to most internet packages being unlimited downloads. Before, like a lot of ones before had a cap, and when you reach that cap, either they would charge you per gigabyte, or they would throttle you to at least 25% speed, or they just cut you off. Those were the three options. So for the longest time, we had a house-wide data cap of, I think it was 25 gigabytes a month. And then we increased that to, I think, 100 gigabytes per month. And then only recently we've started getting into unlimited stuff. But for example, a ballpark, if you wanted unlimited internet with about an average connection, which would be about 40 down, 10 up, at least that's what your ISP would tell you, would probably run you about $80, $85 tax included per month. Which, from what I've heard talking to other people, is up to double what some countries pay. So yeah, if you come to Canada, things are expensive. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. A lot of times they're pushing for those bundles. But yeah. Yeah, I don't want to know what, like, 140 would cost. Actually, it would probably be comparable to that. Yeah, actually, that's probably a good comparison. But anyways, now we are Maho. And we are fidgeting. She knew exactly why, but she still didn't want to admit it.
Maho, 準備はできたかい?
はい。
She awkwardly stood up from the chair as Dr. Leskinen spoke to her.
何ですか?
You weren't ready, Samus's? Well, we can't sit around talking about internet old. Well, I guess we can. But then this game will take 2 years instead of 1. Speaking of games, I was briefly looking up just to try to see how much of Trails in the Sky's second chapter had left. Without any spoilers. I just wanted to try and... I just like trying to figure out about how much of a game I've done versus how much is left. Literally all that's left in that game is that tower, which is like a boss rush, and then some like ending cutscenes. And how is my friend doing with Steins? They recently just like literally this afternoon they messaged me saying that they started back up because they got the Suzuha ending, and they're like, at first they didn't realize that there were multiple endings, and then when I told them that there's like 7 endings, they're like, what, man? I don't have time for that. I'm already playing Final Fantasy IX and Trails of Cold Steel, because I recommended both those games to him. But he restarted it with the guide I used to get all the endings. And because these kinds of games, they always have skips, so you can go into your configuration and you can do these skips. So with that, he was able to skip through the first 5 chapters of Steins Gate in half an hour. So he's past the Suzuha ending and now continuing with it. I'm not trying to kill my friends. Dr. Leskinen stared at her for a moment and then spoke. It was obvious he was referring to her outfit.
この前みたいにパーティーに出席するわけじゃないんですから。
あの時だって白衣のままだったじゃないか。
あれは服を忘れたんです。
そうだったね。
It's different because he's not streaming it. So he just plays it for like 5 or 6 hours an evening. I'll see him, he'll be messaging me stuff at like 1 a.m. being like, dude, why is this happening? Why is my Yuri dying? Oh, now the stream's done it. It worked without a refresh. We're back. Have I been feeding my internet properly? That depends. Is a balanced diet of dust bunnies, old cat hair, and the occasional tinfoil ball that the cat lost an appropriate diet? If so, then yes. Sorry about that. Internet being internet. Welcome to Canada. No, that's... Okay, what is the nutritious balanced diet that a cereal commercial would pitch for my router? Dr. Leskinen was wearing his translator all the time these days. In fact, he'd actually told Maho to talk to him in Japanese.
さて、クリスとリンタロウはどういう関係を築いているかな？会うのが楽しみだよ。
See, I would recommend lots of cookies. Maho and Dr. Leskinen were about to head into Tokyo proper. There, they were to meet Rintaro Okabe. It had been 2 weeks since they had first asked him to test Amadeus. It was time for the first report. Of course, that was the reason Maho was fidgeting. She was nervous to meet Okabe, no, to see Kurisu, for the first time in quite a while. Of course, Maho was able to talk to Kurisu anytime she wanted, but since she'd asked Okabe to be a tester, she tried to avoid doing so as much as possible. Didn't want her conversations to add any extra noise.
教授、出発する前に一つ聞いても。
なんなる意図。
なぜ岡部さんなんですか？
Maho had wanted to ask Dr. Leskinen that for a long time. He was going to ask, though, now is the time. Dr. Leskinen thought for a minute.
嫉妬しているのかい、マホ。
それは。
I mean, Samus says, why isn't your cereal called Bits and Bites? Come on. She felt heat flush her face. In other words, he was right. Yeah, she was jealous of Okabe, not that she wanted to admit it.
正直、納得はしていません。
Oh, you're trying to play on the kibble and bits? I see.
クリスの話し相手なら、他にも適任がいたはずです。
例えば、君とか
So, is this the kind of cereal that you give 5 bars instead of 5 stars?
そうは言いません。私はクリスともアマデウスとも近すぎますから。
Yes, you did pretty good for not remembering what you referenced.
リンタロウはいい青年だよ。
本気でそう信じているなら、教授はお人よしです。人の本質を一度会っただけで理解することなんて不可能ですよ。もし彼が私たちに隠れて他の研究者にアマデウスを売り渡してしまったら、最初はそのつもりはなかったとしても、お金を前にしたら気持ちが揺らぐことだってあります。それが人間というものです。
仮にリンタロウがアマデウスを売ったとしよう。それでどうなるかな？アクセス権を手に入れた何者かはクリスと仲良くなってアマデウスそのものを乗っ取ったりできるかな？
それは。
Maho asked herself the question, then realized the chance was almost 0.
ありえません。
そう、ありえない。なぜならそんな事態になればクリスの方が対話を拒否するだろうからね。アマデウスはそういう意味でとても面倒くさいシステムだよ。なかなかこちらの思い通りには動いてくれない。
So it's a tsundere computer system. Got it.
もちろんアマデウスが説得される可能性もあるだろうけれど、そのために私はモデルとなる人格にクリスと魔法を選んだとも言えるわけでね。
Dr. Lesson gave her a mischievous wink.
私もクリスも気難しいですからね。そうやすやすと説得はされないでしょう。
She knew he was teasing her, so she decided to say it.
いかにも君たちは本当に
To quote her, not to quote, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to be slung by the slings and arrows of outrageous Twitch streams, or to take arms against a sea of raids and by such means oppose them.
これぞ最強のセキュリティだよ。
けなされているように聞こえるんですが。
Impressive.
君たちは我が研究室が誇る最強のレディーさ。
Dr. Lesson laughed happily. He always had a childlike innocence about him.
いずれにせよ、アマデウスの AI は一筋縄ではいかないわけでね。だからこそ面白いとも言える。そんな彼女たちを身内だけで独占して。
I love how every time they put the name of the computer thing, they do it in brackets, so it's like Christina, Maho. And now they're talking about all of them collectively, so it's them.
エムテウスが劇的な進化を遂げるための起爆剤のようなものがちょうど欲しいと考えていたところなんだ。しかもなるべく研究とは無関係な人物に預けたかった。ウィンターローは聡明だし適任だと思ったんだ。クリスの友人でもあったわけだし。とりあえず今日の報告次第で判断してもいいんじゃないか。クリスがリンターローと過ごしてどう変化したのかを見極めてからだね。私たちが見たことのないような意外な一面を覗かせてくれるかもしれないよ。
はい。
I hope Christina's invited to these meetings. That would make it so much better. That was what was making her nervous. If Chrissu changed into someone she didn't know, that would make her sad.
そろそろ時間だ。レオ。
Maho nodded. Oh, and we're Okabe again. I walked into the grounds of Yanabayashi Shrine and quietly took a look around. Several cats were sunbathing beneath the cold winter sky. There was no sign of anyone else. Lukiko wasn't back from school yet. Okay, I could talk to Rissa without anyone staring at me here. I was supposed to meet with Dr. Luskin and Maho after this. Before that happened, I wanted to confirm something with Chrissu. Okay, so if you just notice that the game actually quick saved for me, and there's a reason for that. There is a choice here, and it is the first choice we have to make that affects the end game. So I'm saving that over into this slot here for future use. And then just to make sure I don't overwrite the save accidentally, I'm going to save back over top of our current one. Oh, and actually this has an interesting thing called data lock. How does data lock work? I think I have to use my mouse. Click on it. There we go. So I've just... I guess you can't see this because my face is covering it. This is now locked. What that means is you cannot save over this unless you manually press on it to unlock it. So we've locked this save as our first save point. And now we're going to save over this. But we're at our first choice point. This game has a much simpler way of endings. The other one, it had some ridiculous stuff where you had to answer messages with specific responses. The most infamous one being a chain of, I believe it's 5 messages that you have like 3 different responses, and you have to choose the correct one for each of those messages. And that is the hardest one to get. Okay, but this is save 1. And as I've said before, we're going to do a series of the bad endings first that go down this path before booting the save and going to the true ending. Okay, we decide to start the app. Whenever I talk to Chris, so I need to pay attention to where I was. People would stare if I did it in a crowded place. I couldn't do it around my family or anyone I knew. I mean, people usually can't do it around their family or anyone they know. In that sense, with the exception of the fact that Lukiko and Mayuri might show up, Yanabayashi Shrine wasn't a bad spot.
Hello.
Okay. So, what is... Okay, I'm just looking at what our option is for later. Okay. Cool.
話がある。
今日はこの後教授や先輩に会う予定なのよね。その件について。
ああ。
緊張する必要はないんじゃない？基本的にはログを提出して、あとはあんたから見た私がどんな印象だったのか、 軽く聞かれるぐらいだと思う。
それだ、ログだよ。それを聞きたかった。もしかしてこれまでの会話は全部記録されてるのか？
最初に話したでしょ。私は私以外アクセス不可の領域にログを取っているって聞いてなかった？
それを今回教授とヒアジョーさんに提出するのか？
多分そう。
ということはプライベートのことをお前に喋ろうものならヒアジョーさんやレスキネン教授に筒抜けっていうことか。
Oh, I should move my face. There we go. I'm not the person in the cell phone.
今さら？
Yeah, I was a little late. Chris and I had been talking for 2 weeks. I should have asked about this when I got the access key for Amadeus.
今日になって気づいたんだ。なあ、俺これまでに何かまずいことを話さなかったか？
You wanted me to be the person in the cell phone? Unfortunately, I do not have a lab coat. Do I have a red tie? I don't think I have a red tie either. I have a couple of blue ties. Blue is a go-to color for me. So I have a couple of blue ties. I have a emerald green bow tie. And I think I have another bow tie. And have the hair... Yes, I do not have long red hair. I am not Mim. I guess I'm close to the eye color. It's more of a gray, a steely blue. You have long red hair? There you go. You are now the person inside of our phone.
ナスは嫌いなんじゃない。苦手なだけだ。
What? Okay, 2 questions. What does he mean I'm just not very good at eating eggplants? 1. Are they still talking about eggplants, or is this a completely different conversation we're having here right now? It's taken way out of context. I don't hate eggplants. I'm just not very good at eating them. It has very different connotations. How bad are you? I love eggplant, actually. I convinced my family, so we just started barbecue season here, and we're doing some grilled vegetables, and we did, you know, like peppers, onions, and my parents were trying to come up with what's other good grilling food, and I said eggplant. Eggplant is good grilled. So we got an eggplant that we'll be grilling probably at some point this week. You are semi-back again. Hello, my truck friend. How are you doing?
あんたが最初に私と話した時にクリスティーナって呼んだこととか？
それについては忘れて
Deadbeard there with the eggplants. Hello, truck friend. How are you doing? We're closing to quote 69.
人の記憶は曖昧で、時間が経てば経つほど主観が入り混じるし、物語が付与されていく。その内容がポジティブかネガティブかに関係なく、印象的な言葉しか思い出さないことも多い。それに引きずられて、前後の会話の記憶はねじ曲げられていく。
Huh? What was she talking about?
それが悪いことだと言ってるわけじゃない。人の記憶というのは
Your new truck movie, Transformers? Everyone's talking about the trailer.
でも、アマデウスは人じゃない。まだ研究段階の不完全な AI よ。これは教授たちにとって大きな壁の一つなんだけど、実は人の持つ曖昧さをアマデウスはまだ完全には再現できていない。
Imagine this is your computer problem. You've built a computer system that simulates humans, but its memory is too perfect. It can't forget things like humans do. Okay, so Transformers, that's not an original joke. That's stolen from a Canadian TV show called Corner Gas, where the tagline is, it's the farmyard animal turned fighting robot fad. and it's supposed to be like the biggest toy at Christmas. So they have Chewie the robot goat, who is a goat. When there's trouble, he turns into a fighting robot with a goat head. This is the kind of Christmas specials we have here in Canada. You guys okay? I mean, until the goats actually rise up against us, I think we're okay. You were gonna take a drink, but you started laughing too hard. I mean, hold on, I think I actually have all the seasons of Corner Gas about 3 feet to my left. 1 second. And indeed I do. So, here, let's put this. Yeah. So here's Corner Gas. It's a Canadian comedy TV show. Samus's redeemed Discord. Well, Samus's, you can send yourself a link to the Discord and then refund yourself because you're already in there. But let's see if I can. I think it was season 3 that had the Christmas episode. Let me pull that out. Is this is season 5, not season 3. I can't read numbers. Send Deadbeard 1. Where's season? Here's season 3. Season 3's theme was a comic book. Oh, and they also came with these fake money, so you could buy like you could buy shirts from the show. Here we go. Merry Gasmus. I don't know how well that shows up. It's actually okay. Yeah, so these are the kind of things we have here in Canada. Here is the summary of the episode. Brent, who's the main character, is stuck in Dog River dealing with Emma's version of traditional Christmas, while Lacey travel plans make it hard for her to miss a traditional Christmas in Dog River. There you go. I'll put all those just over here. There you go. Just in the background for the rest of the stream. Dog River is the name of the fictional city that they are in. There's an entire episode dedicated to why it's called that. And the fake story they tell people is that from the air, the river that they're nearby looks like a dog's leg. And one person's like, but wait, the pioneers who settled this, they didn't have aircrafts. How did they know this? And she does some digging into it and finds out that her like great-great-great-grandfather drowned a bunch of dogs in the river. And then was like, I'm gonna keep this a secret. Yeah, Deadbeard, I did notice you had left. I still tag you and stuff anyways. Yes, as Beardy said, he wrote a script to leave any Discord. He hadn't sent a message in over a month, which meant he got booted out of a bunch of Discords. Or, I guess not booted out. Chose to leave a bunch of Discords via script. In other words, asking her to forget was a waste of time.
それでもなんとか記憶を改ざんしたいというのなら、大元のプログラムそのものをいじるしかない。
I didn't have that level of access, and I didn't understand how the program worked at all. So basically, until I told Chrisu why I called her Christina, she was gonna keep asking. Yeah, there you go. Just have the database of here are the servers that are core and their exceptions to your script.
どうしてクリスティーナ？
本当に引き下がらないな。今すぐ通話を切ってもいいんだぞ。
そうやって逃げたって今説明した通り、私は忘れない。
Okay, we're on a lot of tangents today. Database story. I'm working on a project. I'm not really at liberty to disclose a whole lot about it, but they hired a new person, and within about 4 hours of being granted access to the staging database, he wiped out half of it, and I had to spend about 3 or 4 hours loading it from a backup. So there's my database story from this past week. Good thing we have automated backups. Take automated backups of everything you do. I only knew because at one point he messaged me like, hey, this was in Ruby, so he was trying to like do the typical Ruby stuff for setting up a new database, and he's like, hey, I got this message, unable to delete database because it has rows which have a foreign key constraint. What do I do? And I take a look at the staging database, and literally half the tables are just wiped. Ruby on Rails. Yeah. When I say Ruby, I always mean Ruby on Rails, currently, but I always just say Ruby. Ruby on Rails uses, what's it called? Active Directory, which is different from like the normal Windows Active Directory. I think that's what it's called, Active Directory for Ruby on Rails. And it's basically like an ORM designed to interface directly with your database, which I don't know if this is the standard. I think it is, but we're using a Postgres SQL database. So you can do things saying like user dot pluck in brackets :ID, and what that means is go to the user table and just get the column ID. And things like that. You can still write just like plain SQL if you want to do like users.where in quotes ID is greater than 100, for example. But it's supposed to be built in to have these kinds of things, so you don't have to have as much knowledge about Postgres or SQL. My experience with ORMs is they are more trouble than they are worth. Every time I've worked with an ORM, they are usually super complicated, and two, have a ridiculous amount of caching that clients are always like, hey, I want this thing to reload itself, and we're like, well, we can't because the ORM cached it, and we'd have to override the caching of your entire system to do that. But yeah, that's my talk about Ruby on Rails and SQL. Let's find out what Rhine is. Alright, it's our fictional instant messaging application developed... Wait, Daru developed our IM application. Okay. I didn't know this. If both users have it installed, they can communicate with each other via voice and chat. Since it's privately developed software and isn't available on the internet right now, only Itaru Hashida and his friends and acquaintances use it. Yeah, honestly with SQL, so like I've done some courses on SQL and stuff, and there's, you know, different kinds of joins and this kind of stuff. What I have found is the best SQL is the one that is most readable. Usually what that means for me is write everything as a subquery. So if you're like, oh, I want all of this data from this, but only where the IDs are IDs where the user is active, I'll just write a subquery. CTE. That acronym, if I'm familiar with it, is not coming to me right now. What is CTE? But yeah, so I write common table expressions. No, I've never used that. I'm not even sure what those are. But yeah, similar to subqueries but different. Okay, like maybe it would be worth me looking into. But yeah, I find subquery is a lot more readable, personally. In terms of performance, probably worse for most things. But from a readability point of view, I find they're a lot better. It's so the three one. Okay. What are the database ones I've used? So SQL, Postgres. Oh, what's the temporary one called? It's escaping my head right now. Not SQLite. I've used SQLite. Gosh, what is that called? MongoDB. I hate MongoDB from like the one time I used it. I think it's a piece of garbage. Maybe it was just the project I was on, it sucked. And then I've used a lot of super old proprietary databases that they're just not even worth the time. Yeah, the other thing about Mongo is supposed to be that it's temporary. Thank you for the hydrate. So, your Mongo data, in theory, is temporary, meaning if you were to fill up your entire database, it'll just start randomly deleting stuff. So, you're not supposed to use it for anything that you require permanent data storage for. If it's something where, I don't know, you're just like tracking logins against something, like maybe Mongo's changed. The last time I looked at it was like 5 years ago at this point. So maybe it's changed. But at the time, it was this temporary solution that if you like max out, would just start randomly deleting memory inside to make room for the new stuff you were adding. Which sounds horrible. She got mad at me. Maybe Mongo has changed in the past 5 years. Because the only reason I had to touch it is we were migrating from Mongo to a MySQL database because it was data we didn't want to get destroyed. So I had to write a script to migrate from a MongoDB into, I can't remember what I exported it as, a CSV or something, or a JSON, and then import it into a MySQL database. She's really into this.
可能性その1、 あんたはクリスティーナなんちゃらという名前のハリウッド女優が好きである。
Okay, do we have... Here are your options. Do we have a crush on a Hollywood actress?
自分がハリウッド女優並みの美貌の持ち主だとでも？
見た目は関係ない。同じ名前の人に親近感を持つのと似たような意味よ。
つまりこう言いたいわけか。私は岡部倫太郎から親近感を持たれている。
単なる例え話でしょ。言葉通りに受け止めないで。
No, keep reading into it.
冗談だよ。
Whenever I talked to Chrisu, I always wanted to tease her. I needed to watch out.
可能性その2。あんたが昔付き合っていた彼女が外国人でクリスティーナっていう名前だった。これについてはあんたの絶望的な英語力を聞く限り絶対にないわね。
もしかしたら日本語ペラペラの金髪ブロンド美女と付き合っていたかもしれないだろう。
もしかしたの？沈黙は敗北を認めることと同意よ。
すいません。
可能性その3。オリジナルの私と面識があって直接あるいは間接的にそう呼んでいた。
Okay. Yeah, I don't really remember. It was like 5 years ago. Maybe... I'm pretty sure it was Mongo. Maybe it was like a specific... Like a specific thing in Mongo you could set. Yeah, I don't remember. All I remember is I was given a database and told export this into MySQL because it's gonna, like, destroy itself.
これも確率低いでしょうね。そんな風に呼ばれたら私ならこう答える。ティーナってつけるな。
Yeah, that was exactly right. That's exactly what Chrisu said. I didn't stop because... Might have been time to live? Perhaps. I guess the other thing could be it was such an old database that they were dropping support for it or something. Yeah, besides that, I've never touched Mongo again, so I don't really know a whole lot about it. The genius named Chrisuma Kise was the person I'd always wanted to be.
どういうこと？
素直に名前を呼べないから照れ隠しであえて茶化した言い方をした。
Yes, I agree with that. Converting it to a relational database was a bit of a pain.
ああ、オリジナルだけじゃなくて、お前と話すのもだ。
私？
何しろモニターの中にいる女の子と話すなんて一度もない経験だったから。
それはど
うも。ん？なんで赤くなってるんだ？
赤くなんてなってないし。ただ女の子扱いされるなんて思ってもみなかったからちょっとびっくりしただけで。
I feel like I mentioned this on stream before, but the worst database I've worked with is called C-Tree SQL. It was a proprietary database made in, I think, the 90s. And it had fun little features. Well, first of all, some of the issues with it were how it was being used by the third-party software that had licensed it, which is a different issue. But it had wonderful features like columns do not have types. Therefore, you can insert whatever data you want into it. And this had fun little things like you have a column called created at date, fairly standard column, and you'd have 10,000 different formats in it. You know, year, dash, month, dash, day, month, dash, day, dash, year. Someone literally writing out the words Wednesday, June 4th. So, we would have some fun things. Like, why is this table crashing on this specific row? I thought these were all integers. Oh no, someone's typed a string instead of a number. If people want terrible tools and stuff, Windows put out a virtual desktop experience. And I can't remember what it was called, but it is horrible. Basically, it's kind of like one of those point-and-click adventure games. So you're inside a house, and it's like, oh, you want to like access a notepad? Well, notepads are kept on your desk, so click until you find the office. Once you're in the office, find your desk. On your desk is a notepad. Click on the notepad, and now you've opened Notepad. And it had its own version of Clippy, but it was like a dog, and it tried to help you around your house. It was weird. Even that reaction was just like Chrisu. Yeah, it never really went live, because who wanted this? Who asked for this? No one. I shuddered. What was I about to say? This was a 3D model on a screen, a tiny collection of zeros and ones in the shape of a human. What was I about to say to her? You've used that, Samuses! Well, Samuses, you are one of 2 people I now know who has used that. Tell the turtle to dog right to increase the X coordinate. I was hit with a violent urge to throw up. I could see Chrisu in front of me, covered in blood. She was looking at me, her eyes cold. Oh jeez, there's her eyes! Like, actually her eyes this time. I touched the smartphone and ended the call. Then I became too dizzy to stand. I'm just imagining programming stuff in Frogger now. I tried to throw up, but nothing came out. My hands were shaking. That's right, I can't change reality. Import turtle? But there I was, trying to talk to Chrissy like nothing had happened. I was treating her like the real Chrisu and trying to avert my eyes from what I'd done. I was just clinging to Chrisu. This was wrong. I shouldn't talk to Chrisu anymore. You couldn't just import things? That would be too easy. Turtle, find file. Turtle, bring file home. Okay, so I actually jumped the gun earlier. So here's the actual... here's the actual save. I'm gonna put it in a new one. I'm then gonna lock this, which involves me using my mouse to click here and then lock that. And then we'll click out, and then we'll save over this. So, we have a phone call from Chrisu. I hung up in the middle of the conversation, so she was probably mad. Mad? She was just an AI. Chrisu's anger was just a program. Chrisu wasn't Chrisu. Don't treat them like they're the same. I shouldn't talk to Chrisu anymore. Just the incoming call was almost enough to trigger a flashback. Samus's redeemed jug. Okay, well, we're getting phone call juggling. I'll be honest, Samus, there was a point earlier when you said... Oh, I should move the camera up. Where you said, this music is interesting. Sorry, can't answer the phone call to juggle. There was a point where you said, this song's interesting. So my thought was, he's going to redeem juggle right now. And then you didn't. I was kind of surprised. But I figured it was going to happen at some point. Alright, we have apparently the world's longest number of rings before it just goes to voicemail. So, yeah, so we're gonna do this. Alright. Oh, hit my own hand. Let's try that again. Oh, I got it, but then I dropped it after. Oh, I was trying to switch to 2, but I wanted to do some fake juggling. That's not real juggling. Oh. Trying to get the foot stall. Pick that back up. Trying to think of other tricks I haven't done. We'll get it behind the back. I feel like I haven't done an elbow stall, which is not something I'm particularly good at. I mean, it doesn't seem like I'm good at any juggling right now. Oh! Get it behind the back. If it kills me, we will get it. It might kill me. There we go. Okay. So an elbow stall. So we're kind of getting into a different kind of juggling now. We're getting into contact juggling, which I've mentioned briefly. With contact juggling, you usually use balls that look more like pool balls. They're glass. They're a little bit bigger. But in an elbow stall, what you're trying to do is get it from here. Oh, there's like a forearm stall. You're trying to get it to rest in your elbow and then come back to your hand. And this is something I tried. I tried getting into contact juggling because I think it looks super cool, but I never really got into it. But we're gonna. If you notice when I was talking about the stream, I was doing this. This is a common contact juggling thing where you're just messing with 2 balls. Gosh, that sounds awful. And you're spinning them, and if you're really skilled, you can go both ways. I cannot go both ways, because I'm not that skilled. But yeah, so we're going to try an elbow stall. So I kind of got a forearm stall. The trick is to just, get it to not roll off your arm, and then try and straighten it so it stops. Oh, it's pretty close. So there we go. If you're skilled, you can go both ways, but I'm not that skilled. That would have been a great quote 69. Sadly, it is not. But yeah, so anytime you talk about a stall, it just means that you're taking a ball and just putting it somewhere. Usually, either it's in contact juggling, it stays connected to your body. In regular juggling, you throw it and then you catch it. So actually, let's do a head stall. That's a fun one. So for a head stall, you throw it up, try and move under it, and you try and like get it to stay on the top of your head, You bend your knees just a little bit to sort of cushion the impact, like your shocks on a car or something. We'll get it. I'm gonna try with this one. It's a bit heavier. Heavier probably works in my favor. Come on. It'd also help if you had a flatter head. So close. Oh, not high enough. Just messed up. We'll give this a couple more tries. Why is juggling so inappropriate? Because it involves a lot of hands, a lot of balls, and a lot of touching. We'll give it a couple more tries, and then we'll give up on it. But you get the general idea. What I've done, I do some foot stalls, I do some neck stalls. You can get shoulder stalls. Kind of like, I don't know if I can do that, but yeah, same idea on your shoulder. There we go, that's a head stall. Finally. Yeah, you really got your 5K channel points out of it. So there we go. Finally got a head stall. That's something I haven't done in probably years. But yeah, like contact juggling, you'll have people they'll do a shoulder stall, and then they'll put it behind their neck, stall on the other shoulder, and then come around your collarbone and back to the first shoulder, and things like that. Alright, we had a phone call. In my mind, I could see an image of Chrissy's bloody face. Should I turn off my phone? So, here's our option. Do we shut off our phone and thus not answer the call, or do we leave it on and answer the call? So, we're going to shut off our phone. That's the first choice we've made. The phone went silent. This is a very important choice. Yeah, I won't get too into it, but yes. Basically, this splits us off between, like, two paths of endings. The phone went silent. I slowly stood up. If Lukako saw me like this, he'd worry. I should get out of here. I was staggering a little, but I could walk. Never answer the call? I felt very thirsty. I gulped down an entire bottle of mineral water and caught my breath. My cell phone's still off, by the way. I can't do anything with it, but I can open it, I can look at it, and like my actual phone, I don't see my face at like 1 AM looking like when the screen goes black. All that juggling is sure to dehydrate you. Alright, I have to put my phone back in my pocket before I can advance text. There was still a little time before my meeting. I wanted to get some air up here and recover a little. I looked down over the scenery below the overpass. The city was in the Christmas spirit, and by Christmas spirit I mean we have one entire tree. The atmosphere was charged with excitement, and people with no faces. Just how I remember Christmas. It was the exact opposite of me. I took more deep breaths. I still felt like I wanted to throw up. I probably shouldn't have gulped down an entire bottle of water in one shot then. I was getting a headache, too. If I went to Dr. Leskinen like this, I'm sure I'd worry him. And then I realized that the two girls coming up the stairs were looking at me. I peered into the late afternoon darkness to try and make out their faces. One of them, the girl with the short haircut, waved.
やっぱりオカリンさんだ。こんにちは。
ああ、マユリの友達の。
They were Mayuri's friends and fellow cosplayers. I think their cosplay names were Kaide and Fubuki. Short hair and long hair, good names. Until you join the military and then everyone just buzz. I didn't know their real names. Which was Kaide and which was Fubuki again?
大丈夫ですか？具合悪そうですけど。
ああ、大丈夫。
I made them worry here, and they talked to Mayuri, it would cause a big fuss. I didn't want her to worry about me when she didn't have to. I shouldn't have come back to Akihabara anyway. I'd run into people I knew just walking through town. I should have gone towards Kondo when I left the shrine. You call dibs on them both? That's how this works, yes. Do you mean dibs on the girls or dibs on the haircuts? Because, I mean, with the haircut, you could have, you know, one up top and one down below, you know? Dibs on both boths. Well, I hate to inform you that at least one of these girls is still in high school, so the FBI are on their way.
オカリンさんっていつもなんだか辛そうに見えます。
そうか。
そうだよ。
You'd like to change your answer? Yes, the girl with the short haircut, who I believe is Kaede, is still in high school, whereas Fubuki on the right with the long hair is in university.
ふぶきちゃん。そんなオカリン
Oh,
さん
no, I messed up their names. I got them reversed.
私もオカリンさんとマユ
The
シのこと
FBI is
見てる
scared
と
of spiders.
泣きそうになって。って私何言ってんだろう。
This Fubuki girl must really care about Mayuri. I felt a little better after hearing that.
オカリンさんの好きな人って誰ですか？
Who's the girl he likes? How do you answer the dead chick who was killed on top of that building the other week? Or I guess the other month. Without seeming like a creep. The girl I like? An image of Christo appeared in the corner of my eye again. I had to, like, check my phone mirror to make sure her ghost wasn't behind me. No body? You wouldn't know her. I knew her before she was cool. The feeling in my hands when I took her life came back. I guess she's pretty holy now after we stabbed her a few times. No, calm down.
オカリンさん。ごめんなさい。失礼なこと聞いちゃって。私。
Oh no. What? No, no. What have we done? Well, cool. We just changed world lines. It's awesome. The sky was red-black, dotted with columns of thick black smoke. The best kind of smoke. There was so much rubble, I couldn't find a place to stand. How did we change world lines? I assume this is related to our choice earlier. About turning off the phone versus not turning off the phone. I don't know why it was so delayed. Maybe at this point in time is when the conversation would have ended if we had continued it. That's the only thing I can think of right off the top of the bat. Screams, gunshots, and the stench. Everyone in this world knew what the smell was. It was the smell of burning. Houses, buildings, cars, motorcycles, trees, grass, and humans. But not the spiders. They knew what was up. It was the smell of all of them burning together. Something thin and black poked from between piles of rubble. It was a hand. The hand, unmoving, stretched up toward the sky. No, that wasn't the only one. Everywhere I looked, I saw hands, legs, and heads. Parts of what were once human beings were strewn across the ground. I heard a distant gunshot. A shout. Silence. Nothing changed. Just one more body lying on the ground. A good scene to go through before you go to bed. The world was ending. And at last people understood. This wasn't the afterlife. This was the real world. Hell. Yes, that's what this was. This was hell. Okay, welcome to the next chapter, A Stray Sheep. Yes, because we turned off our phone, we plunged the world into hell. Always remember to charge your phones, guys. The world twisted and warped. I felt horribly dizzy. Sometimes my vision would blur for no reason. But this was nothing like that. It was like my mind itself was being wrung apart. Like the world itself was changing. Your social life is solely responsible for COVID-19. Deja vu. I knew this feeling. This was... At last, the color came back to my vision. All the shouts of the pedestrians and the noise of the passing cars came flooding in at once. This was the Minecraft nausea effect. It's like drinking too much in Skyrim.
Oh. Yeah.
Fubuki and Kaide. The two of them were still in front of me. They looked worried. Had I just gotten dizzy for a moment?
So
I don't know if it's Skyrim. Skyrim's just the game I go to when I want to meme stuff like that. I can't think off the top of my head. I feel like you can. I feel like you can get like tipsy. Maybe. Yeah, I know GTA 5 does it. That's where my head just went on. Yeah. There's quite a few games that do that. Maybe I'm just confusing one of them with Skyrim. Or I just like memeing Skyrim because it's fun. Except in a very specific quest. Okay. Maybe I've done that quest. Maybe that's... What's the quest that has that? They said their goodbyes and walked toward the station. I watched them go, only halfway paying attention. What was that? None of the passers-by noticed me standing there. They were all experiencing time sequentially, as one connected moment after another. But I knew what I just saw. That's right. I was the one person who understood. Okay. Trying to think if I've done... I might have done that one. Deadbeard has a hydrate. Here you go. That feeling was reading Steiner, which meant That the world line had changed? I shook my head and tried to get the idea out of my mind. It was impossible. The world line could only change if someone had altered the past. I'd only ever seen lines change after I sent D-mails with the phone wave, name subject to change. D-mail, short for DeLorean mail. A text message that's capable of traveling from the past, traveling to the past. D-mails are sent from a cellular phone to the phone wave, name subject to change. However, they can't be sent too close to the present. Also, they may only contain a little over 36 bytes of data. Phone wave, name subject to change. Future gadget number 8. A microwave oven that can be remote controlled by a cell phone. By chance, it gained the ability to send D-mail messages that could go back into the past. After he arrived in the Beta World line, Okabe destroyed it and disposed of the remains. But I destroyed the phone wave. That could never happen again. I'd sacrificed Krisu for it. But then, who did this? And how? People don't generally appreciate unsolicited D-mails. What if someone had made a device identical to the phone wave? Hey, it's Jelly Mayuri, everyone's favorite jelly. Mayuri. I need to see if Mayuri is safe. I'll call her right now. Doesn't seem like... Now you've seen Jelly Mayuri. Yes, so, for those of you who don't understand this, so, when I did the original Steins Gate, we played just like a normal playthrough, and at the same time, after stream, I was going through what we had done, and going through and picking the true ending ones, and there's some slightly different scenes based on that. And one of them is they kill Mayuri by sending her into the past so that she becomes lodged inside of a building and turned into jelly. And that was part of the picture of it. In the original one, I think they have her whole body, and then they zoom into the, like, medium close that you just saw. Oh, I don't mean to skip. I'll call her right now. Hey, my phone's magically on again. Yeah, this doesn't have any bearing. World line changed meant something terrible happened to Mayuri again. Just imagining it made me shiver. That couldn't happen. It wouldn't. That's what I wanted to believe, but I couldn't help but remember all the times I'd seen her die in the Alpha World line. For now, I needed to get in touch with her as soon as possible. I wanted to hear her voice. What do? I realized I was panicking. Calm down. Relax. Oh, no, it's like, you idiot. You pick her off of the contact list on your phone and dial the number. Also, I love how it's sending a call. It's not calling her, it's sending a call. I could hear the call sound in my ear. There's no sign of her picking up. 7 seconds. 8. 9. Each second made the fear worse. I felt cold sweat drip down my back. 12 seconds. 13 seconds. 14 seconds. I kept calling and praying anyway. Eventually, after a minute... Do these people not have voicemail? Voicemail that doesn't pick up after a minute of straight rings? The electronic sound suddenly cut off. The relaxed, easygoing voice I heard most definitely belonged to Mayuri. He'll take that haircut too. Please just don't take any more high schoolers, Deadbeard. Not at all. Nothing had happened at all.
いや、気にしなくていい。少し不安になっただけだ。
不安？
今どこだ？
I'm not your barber.
これからバイトだよ。
何時まで？
8時過ぎぐらいまで。
そうか。わかった。
おかり、遊びに来てくれるの？
いや、今日は用事があってな。無理なんだ。
I feel like you'd have a better chance if you did that in a toupee shop than a barber shop.
バイトが終わったら、ラボにも顔を出すつ
Do
も
you
りだ
think I
よ。
got this beef? Beardy, I think your kleptomania has reached a new low.
わかった。もし行けるようだったら、そこで合流して一緒に帰ろう。
ほんと？今日は珍しいね。
じゃあ、バイト頑張れよ。
Please don't apply the meat adjective to all of your hair. Call complete. I hung up. My Yuri was safe, which meant that the world line change probably had nothing to do with her. Not that I could let my guard down. Or maybe that was just a daydream. There was no world line change at all. It seemed awfully realistic for that to be the case, though. Just to be safe, I turned on my phone again. The icon was still there, in the same place it had been the last several times I used it. I felt a little hesitation, especially after what happened. Did I really contact her after that? What? What is going on in chat? But I decided that it was important to see what was going on first, so I tapped the icon.
何？言い忘れたことでもあった？
Yeah, we forgot to say something, which is, that's the end of stream.